Hey folks, in this video, I'm going to share some movies with you that are currently trending and very popular. The Conjuring, Last Rites. First up is a movie called The Conjuring, Last Rites. It was released in theaters recently and has been globally adored. This movie shows us the final case of Ed and Lorraine, whose experiences form the basis of the entire franchise. The basic premise pitched in the trailers is what their last case was like and why they stopped working afterward. However, when you watch the movie, you discover that their last case wasn't what you'd expect. It wasn't their final case because they decided to quit. They quit, but then one final case comes to them, and they are forced to solve it. What is that compulsion? What circumstances do they face, and do they manage to solve it? To find out what happens in the end, you'll have to watch the movie. To be honest, after seeing the initial reviews, my expectations for this movie were pretty low. But when I watched it myself, I was pleasantly surprised. Of course, everyone has their own opinion, and a movie can be a different experience for everyone, but I personally found this one to be quite good. The interesting thing is that this movie was marketed as the final part of the series. However, just 3 days after its release, it had already recovered its production cost of $208 million. So, a prequel has already been announced, and we might see more parts in the future, either as a prequel or a web series. The movie is performing very well, and there's a good chance it will be popular when it comes to streaming services. So, if you enjoy horror movies, you should definitely watch this one in theaters. You'll have a decent experience. But before you book your ticket, I should tell you that it's not the absolute best experience you'll have from the Conjuring universe. It's a decent horror movie, but compared to many other films in the Conjuring franchise, its bar is a bit lower. In my opinion, the first Conjuring movie was the scariest. After that, the quality, for me, went down. But for now, you can go see The Conjuring, Last Rites in a theater, or you can wait for it to come out on a streaming service. Bloody Ice. Moving on to the next movie, this is also a horror film, but it's a slasher horror movie. You'll see a lot of gore and violence. It's called Bloody Ice, a 2025 movie. In it, a man wearing a mask goes around the country, killing people, but not just random people. He only targets couples. To find out why he does this, how he does it, and what happens to him in the end, you have to watch the movie. You'll find a lot of blood, brutality, and some scenes that will completely surprise you with jump scares. Also, some moments have a touch of dark comedy, which I found to be the most interesting aspect of the movie. The film is also incredibly short, at just 1 hour and 20 minutes. You won't even realize when it starts and when it ends. It's a simple, straightforward movie that gets straight to the point. There's no build-up, it just throws you directly into the story and the slasher scenes. I thought it was a cool movie for a casual watch, so it's definitely recommended from me. Currently, you can watch it on Prime Video. The Naked Gun. Next up is a movie that I found a bit strange. I tried to find logic or make sense of it while watching, but there's none to be found. This movie feels like a complete parody. It just makes fun of itself. There are many moments where you think, there's no way they'll add comedy here, but they do. The movie is called The Naked Gun, a 2025 release. The comedy in this film is unlike anything you've likely seen before. It follows a police officer who tries to solve a case, and the story seems to follow a typical pattern, as seen in many other movies. But, as I said, the way they've added comedy is unique. I don't want to spoil too much of the fun, but I highly recommend you give this movie a try. It's not a long film, at about 1 hour and 25 or 30 minutes. It won't take up much of your time, but it will give you some great entertainment, the kind your brain isn't ready for. This movie was a big surprise for me because I hadn't even seen the trailer. Everything that happened just left me shocked. You should definitely give it a shot, you'll have a new experience. For now, you can rent it on Prime Video. Nobody 2. Moving on to the next movie, this one has some incredibly cool action. If you even blink, you might miss a crucial part of the action. The film is called Nobody 2, another 2025 movie. The first part came out a few years ago and was really good. The sequel isn't as great as the first, but it still has some great action. The basic plot is about a man named Hutch who goes on a vacation with his family. A fight breaks out, and the situation gradually gets bigger and bigger. This time, the trouble isn't just for him, it's for his whole family. The rest of the movie shows how the story unfolds and how he tries to protect his family. To be honest, the story is pretty basic. It feels like the writers had nothing in mind, so they just wrote this. It's predictable and generic. However, the action is amazing. Whenever there's an action scene, the movie speeds up, and the way the actors' movements and hand-to-hand combat are choreographed is incredibly fun to watch. I personally love these kinds of action movies, and I enjoyed this one because of its action. Even though the story is mediocre, the action won't disappoint you. So, if you're an action fan, you must give this movie a try. It's currently in theaters, but you can also wait for it to come out on a streaming service. Mirai. Next is an Indian movie that's also gaining a lot of popularity. The film is called Mirai, a 2025 release. It tells the story of a 24 to 25-year-old guy who suddenly discovers that he's a chosen warrior destined to save the world from a demon who wants to take over the world and become a god. The movie shows how he confronts the demon, how he discovers his powers, and how his story continues. The interesting part is that if you're a fan of Hollywood movies, you'll feel that this film is heavily inspired by Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame. The basic idea is very similar to the Infinity Stones. This is just my opinion. I'm not saying the movie is bad. Even though the idea might seem familiar, the execution is brilliant. Despite a low budget, the visuals are top-notch. If more movies like this are made in India, we're likely to see some great films in the future. Because of that, I highly recommend you try this movie. You can even watch it with your family since it's not an adult film. All the other movies I mentioned before this are not family-friendly. This is the only one in this video that is. Demon Slayer, Infinity Castle. Finally, let's talk about a movie that had a crazy amount of hype, Demon Slayer, Infinity Castle. It was released a while ago in Japan and has already made millions. The movie was released in India on September 12th, and the hype is so big that getting tickets is a challenge. I live in a Tier 2 city where tickets are usually easy to get. Before this movie, the only time I had trouble getting tickets was for Avengers, Endgame. I've never seen such a hype for an animated movie before. This film continues the popular Demon Slayer franchise, where the main characters fight against some high-ranking demons and try to stay alive and defeat them. To see how their battle unfolds and how the story progresses, you have to watch this movie. It's named Infinity Castle because the battle takes place in an infinite castle. If you jump, you just keep falling forever. This is where the Demon Slayers and demons are fighting. Personally, I'm not a big Demon Slayer fan. I watched the first few episodes, then I saw another movie from the series about a train, and then I watched this one. But even so, I enjoyed it a lot. At some points, the movie felt a bit slow. The story becomes action-packed and then slows down abruptly. Since I'm not that connected to the characters, I didn't feel a lot of excitement during those parts. However, the action scenes are beautiful. The colors are vibrant and amazing to look at, and the visuals make the action 100 times better than any other animated movie. Well, maybe 10 times better. So, these are some of the movies I wanted to share with you in this video. I hope you found some new movies to watch this week. That's it for this video. We'll meet again in the next one. This is Showramani, signing off.